Yeah, so today we're going to take the next 90 minutes to talk about undue foreign influence. It's great. Yep, more people coming in. That's great for us. So as we hear those pings, that's going to make us happy. But raise the hand. Um, Monique, I see that you raised your hand. Or you just
That was a mistake.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Okay. And so for those who have attended these trainings, we've been having a kind of series of these trainings with the four panelists working together and keeping up to date in our respective fields and bringing this information to our researchers and our faculty and staff. And so this is our third iteration of it, and we just confirmed yesterday that we're going to have more, and the panelists are happy to continue working together and partnering so that we get critical information to our stakeholders. So we're going to have more of these, and we will be sure to provide the schedule, the dates and times for that. With that being said, it's if you've attended the training before, it may become repetitive. So what we've decided to do is go through the same slides, but really focus on some of the new information and what we're doing at GW and some of the different case studies that we've seen or are being exposed to. So with that, let's get started. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? These are a few of the main topics, right? The importance of sharing research openly, effectively, and safely, the rules of engagement and importance of disclosing all foreign and domestic support and engagements, how to do that, and in distinguishing proper from improper collaborations and engagements, what is and is not acceptable. And we're going to relay to you what our federal partners and law enforcement have been sharing with us, some of the different examples and different ways that different sophisticated entities will try to bind the researcher, right, with different terms and conditions that may or may not be acceptable. So we'll touch on a few of those. Before we begin, we also always like to have this statement here that the George Washington University is absolutely committed to enhancing the global reach of GW's research and therefore supports and encourages international collaborations, interdisciplinary research, and the global exchange of ideas. That has not changed and will not change. GW values our partnerships with universities and organizations worldwide and appreciates the value these collaborations have on the education and research efforts of the institution. Okay. So what are we talking about here, right? Let's just introduce the topic of undue foreign influence, science and security, foreign interference. I mean, they're just kind of throwing out terms nowadays, and so it's a little hard to figure out what they're calling it now. But what really is foreign interference, right? So sophisticated efforts by some nations, right, to exploit, influence, and undermine U.S. research activities and environments. Okay, these efforts exploit the U.S. research enterprise have come through foreign government-sponsored talent recruitment programs. So I'm sure we have all heard of these programs. Features of these talent programs are unacceptable and inconsistent with U.S. research values and principles. And I will go into the next couple of slides on what those values and principles are that we've defined, that we accept. Incidences of concern are not limited to any one background, ethnicity, or nationality, nor are they unique to the United States. Other countries have identified similar behaviors in their research enterprises. This undue foreign influence interference concerns are shared across the federal government from the NIH, NSF, all the way to US Congress, Department of Education. We're also seeing the Department of Justice, right? And of course, the White House Office of Science and Technology Policies, right? We're hearing feedback from most, if not all, of these agencies. These are some of the federal actions, most recent federal actions and guidances and that provide information as far as other federal requirements of institutions that receive federal funding or financial federal support, right? I encourage you all, if if you have the time, to read and explore, what are some of the concerns and why we're concerned with them, right? And so these are live links, and so when one uploads the slide set, please review them and click on the links so you can get more information. And so a number of these we're already working on. You'll hear a little bit about that throughout these presentations, as well as other matters that we're dealing with. For example, Section 889, and the campus will see what comes of that shortly when we distribute the questionnaires for Section 889. These are the core principles and the values that came out of the Office of Science, Technology, and Policy in the White House, right? Identified principles and values that we accept in the United States, specifically highlighting openness and transparency and accountability and honesty. Okay. Now, what are some of the behaviors that may violate some of these core principles, right? And or violate laws, right? So, failure to disclose, financial conflicts of interest, conflicts of commitment, external employment arrangements, financial support that overlaps with U.S. funding, shadow laboratories or other parallel research activities, diversion of intellectual property, and peer review violations, right? And behavior that may violate laws include theft or diversion of materials and intellectual capital, as well as grant fraud. Okay, so here, transparency and accountability are cornerstones of the research enterprise. Disclosing information related to potential conflicts is paramount to maintaining the security and integrity of that enterprise. So that's why we're focusing on conflicts of interest and transparency. What are the risks to the U.S. research security and integrity if we engage in these behaviors, right? So the potential impacts include distorted decisions about appropriate use of taxpayer funds, right? And that's coming really strong out of the federal agencies, especially those that fund research. Hidden transfers of information, know-how, data, and time, diversion of proprietary information and pre-publication data to foreign entities, loss of federal research funding or need to replace key personnel, of course, reputational, career, and financial detriment to institutions and individuals, right? We are seeing that across the news, and loss of public trust in the research enterprise, right? So again, really advocating for transparency and full disclosure to properly assess these risks. So the next topic is the rules of engagement and importance of disclosing all foreign and domestic support and engagements, right? We talked about why it's important that our research is open, right? But with that, we need to ensure that it is safe and that we put measures in place to ensure the integrity of that research, right? And then we talked about transparency as far as disclosing, right? And so how do we do that? And what does that mean? And what are some of the things that we should be disclosing? All right. So at GW, right now we are using Appendix C, right? And with that, there is a form that we researchers are required to complete yearly, right? Every 365 days, and or if there is any new engagements, activities, any new interests, right, then those are required to be disclosed I believe 30 days, but as soon as possible, right? And so again, here is a live link to the FCOI supplemental disclosure form. Please note that these are financial conflicts of interest, although not completely financial. So let me just put that out there. But these requirements are specific to GW based upon what GW is interested in reviewing, as well as what our federal agencies and federal partners are requesting that we obtain, right? However, with that being said, that is separate from what Monique and Alma will be talking about as far as requirements directly from sponsors. Okay, that is a separate requirement. So it may seem as if it may be redundant in that we're disclosing some of the same activities, same support, and whatnot. But behind the scenes, we are working with a number of offices to figure out a way to remove that burden, right, or reduce that burden, and have a disclosure form as opposed to a number of disclosure forms in which our researchers need to disclose. Okay. Let's see. The other avenue to disclose is, of course, through our annual disclosure, or our annual reviews, right, that our faculty engage in annually within the departments. And the Office of Ethics, Compliance, and Privacy, they are the owners of that annual disclosure process, right? So you want to make sure that you disclose there as well, right? Because one of the things that we're going to be reviewing is the consistency in disclosures, right? And if we're seeing that there is not a consistency, or there's a gap, then we will probably follow up and to determine where we are with that engagement or activity, or with that financial interest. Okay. If there are questions, please consult us as far as where to disclose and what to disclose. Okay, so here are some examples of foreign activities, engagements, affiliations that require disclosure to GW and federal sponsors if performed in a private capacity. Academic, research, or administrative appointments, right? Even at a foreign institution, even if the appointment is uncompensated, right? So even if you're not receiving any kind of a salary or remuneration, compensation, we need to disclose that. Any agreement with a foreign university for which GW faculty direct non-GW students, postdocs, or other personnel affiliated with that university. Any foreign affiliation that is included in any publication by GW faculty. Contractual agreements with a foreign institution, company, or government agency. Non-GW agreements in which foreign funds or other resources are provided to the faculty for activities either at GW or at a foreign institution. Agreements or relationships that assign intellectual property rights to a foreign institution. Agreements or relationships with a foreign entity in which the GW faculty member receives payments for salaries, stipends, or living expenses. These are just examples. This is not a complete list of things to disclose. If you are engaging in an activity or an engagement with a foreign entity and have questions, or have opportunities to engage, we highly encourage you to talk with us about that before signing any agreement, right, or accepting any position, especially if you have federal funding. Okay, so distinguishing proper from improper collaborations and engagements. What is and is not acceptable? Okay, so these are some things to consider when we as in researchers, are reviewing opportunities to engage in different activities with foreign entities. Is it a multi-year? Oh, I get, and with any contract really, but specifically when we're dealing with foreign entities, is it a multi-year long contract? Does the total funding exceed a certain amount? Are we engaging with high-risk countries, China, Russia, Iran? Are the collaborators included on a list of concern? That's where export control comes in, okay? And Juan should be able to discuss that briefly. Is it a high priority area of research or technology, right? Artificial intelligence, quantum, biotechnology. Are there restrictions on sharing the output of the research? And this is really big. We're seeing agreements that have been signed by both the researcher and the foreign entity in which they will not be able to publish, right? Will access to data be granted to collaborators? Will resources be sufficient to fully meet the grant obligation? And does the research follow human and animal subject protection standards, right? So these are some things that that we want to look into when we're reviewing agreements. Some red flags, okay, that we've seen are the exchange of money during the collaboration, a lack of reciprocity, right? So it is not equitable as far as what is being shared. The goal of the collaboration is something other than to publish the research, perhaps commercial in nature, perhaps military or defense related, right? Multi-year collaborations, frequent overseas travel, association with, of course, association with a foreign talent program, okay? Publishing with a foreign collaborator who is not listed on any disclosure forms, foreign collaborators who don't have the required background or expertise to support the research topic, right? So let's just say there is an opportunity for a collaboration, right? If you have questions or concerns about that individual, please contact us so that we can vet and we can screen the individual, right? We can ask for maybe their CV or their resume, right? And if their background is not consistent with what they are reaching out to our researchers for, that may be a red flag. That may be a sign, right? Time commitment for the collaboration exceeds the time available after properly executing university responsibilities. Several foreign postdocs or visiting professors in the lab and or high turnover of those individuals. And so that's another thing as far as export controls, right? We want to make sure we review all foreign scholars, researchers who come to the university, right, before they get here. So we can put plans in place to ensure that they are not accessing items or information that they should not have access to, and to ensure that what they are coming to GW for is consistent with their background and their research goals, right, or professional goals. Individuals who reach out to the university to help with research are unknown to the university and are willing to work for free, right? So if we have these requests, let's talk. Let's talk about it. Let's talk it through. See if we can get any more information. So a little bit about what we're doing at GWs, some of the reviews. And so again, our priority is educational efforts, right? Ongoing education and awareness for faculty and staff, and a number of approaches, right? This is our virtual trainings. We're going to have more throughout the year. Our websites have been up to date with new updates coming from the federal partners and other organizations like COGR and the Federal Demonstration Partnership. Um, we are absolutely happy to do one-on-one, and where we go to the research team to talk about the project and how undue foreign influence export controls may apply, right? The focus is on the activity and not the country or nationality. And so that was one of the reasons why we made sure to post that statement at the very beginning, right? And also to repeat it here, is that we are not focusing on we are not targeting a specific country. We are targeting specific activities, okay? In a foreign country with a foreign entity, right? It may appear as if we are singling out a country, but with the research enterprise, that one country, which is China, is the one that law enforcement and our federal partners have the most information on, right? The most intelligence as far as how China uses these foreign talent programs for their own benefit, right? Review committee to determine institutional disclosure obligations to funding agencies for foreign engagements. And so again, the reason why we're doing this is so if there's anything that we need to report or we need to disclose to our federal partners who have funded our research, right? We're making sure that we're doing that review. And we work closely with researchers and faculty to create a comfortable environment for faculty to discuss potential collaborations and disclose outside activities, right? Not only encouraging self-disclosure, but encouraging questions, right? Let's look at contracts not for legal review, right? But more so of, okay, so these are the things that we're hearing out in the research enterprise. There may be these considerations, there may be these concerns, right? If it's not in English, let's ask for the contract to be in English, right? Let's not sign something that we cannot understand. Things of that nature, right? If we can accept some of the conditions or not, right? Let's have that discussion. And then what does that mean as far as future federal funding, right? If anything. So we absolutely
Um,
encourage.
Hiromi, Dr. Santos Borgoa has a question. He says there are people who want to gain experience and therefore work for free. Then, when an opportunity arises like this, we should get in touch with you. And what would be done?
Yeah. So again, every thank you, Carlos. Good to see you. Great that you're attending. Um, Yeah, so every case is going to be different, right? So when that if we have that situation, right? Okay, so working for free isn't it's just okay, we that's something, right? But if we see that, okay, why do they want to work for free? What is their background, right? What did they get their degrees in? What do they want to do? What kind of instruction or do they want to receive, and why? And if all of that kind of makes sense and is reasonable, then that's fine. But we're just going to ask a bunch of questions, right? We're going to do a screening on our end, and just to make sure that things are documented. And so we go in with this relationship with eyes wide open, with all of the information that we have, right? But Carlos, if somebody else comes in with a different set of circumstances, right, and then again, pretty much we're going to review that individual, review their resume or CV, see what it is that they want to, get from GW, right? There may be a little bit more follow up or not, but that's essentially what our office will do. Yes.
Okay, he had another question. Can you explain on the publishing with a foreign collaborator, not in a disclosure form, and which disclosure form should he use?
Publishing with a foreign collaborator who's not listed on any disclosure forms.
No, he says, can you explain on the publishing with a foreign collaborator, not in a disclosure form? Dr. Santos Borgoa, could you explain or state your question, please?
Yes, thank you. Precisely in this slide at the end, it says publishing with a foreign collaborator who is not listed on any disclosure forms. Which disclosure forms are we talking about? Uh, we publish all the time with people in in other countries. So I would like to be aware of what do you mean by the disclosure forms?
Mhm, mhm, mhm. So I must say that the sources down here is from the MITRE 2020 memorandum that came out. And I'm guessing in that so we need to balance, right? I'm guessing what they're saying is, okay, we collaborate with this research team, in this laboratory in this country, right? And with that collaboration, the result of that will be a publication, right? And so we can look at the disclosure form, and that would be our conflict of interest disclosure form, right? I'm thinking maybe even other support, um, foreign components. I'm not sure, Monique, Alma, if those would come into play, but it has been disclosed that collaboration has been disclosed in some capacity, whether it's through the university or through OSP for the federal partners, and we can see from the publication that those same individuals who are in the collaboration, right, are authors on that manuscript. So I think that complete line of transparency is what we are trying to strive for, right? So to answer your question, whether it's a COI form, whether it's through other support, foreign components, working through OSP, when you submit your proposal, that is, those are a number of ways that you can disclose.
But it's not always that we have a research proposal. We might be working on analysis of a problem. I will test this. Uh, I'm currently working on a paper, and I will send you the consultation. So let's see how it works.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk offline since I think
Yes.
I'm done, and then we need to let
Hang
one. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Liu has a question.
Yes.
If I co-author a technical paper with an international collaborator with my affiliation shown as GW, does this require disclosure?
Okay. Now, if I say yes, right? I mean, gosh, that's just it's just. But I have follow-up questions, right? So, what is this? Was this just a collaboration? Was there funding involved? So, who asked this question?
Um, Dr. Dr. Liu, could you ask your question, sir, please?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
One moment.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Right, with a professor in another country, and we have written several papers together, uh, collaborating online, and it has never occurred to me to disclose this. Is this something that I should be routinely doing?
Right, right. And that's a good question. I can.
So, Hiromi, if you don't mind, I'll jump in. It
Yes.
depends. It really depends. So, it depends on which federal agency you're reporting to. That's the first thing, because some of the definitions are a little bit different, which makes it more challenging and more of a risk, if you will. The definition NSF has is a little bit different from the definition NIH has. So it would be a matter of really looking at those definitions, going through the list for that federal agency, and then taking a step back to analyze, does this apply? I think that's the best approach. It's hard to make a statement or a definitive decision without knowing more information.
Right. Now, suppose no federal agency is involved. This work was not sponsored by external funds.
Then I would say that is probably a good example where we would look at that non-federal. I don't know if there are any other agreements or any other
This
contracts
is
that might be related. If there isn't, then yeah, I feel like unless it conflicts with your annual disclosure for GW as a faculty member or your employment agreement at GW or any other projects that you might be working on, if there's overlap, scientifically, then most likely it may not apply. But you have to look at each incident in a case by case situation. And that's what makes it hard.
right. Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So the other side of that is, okay, so there's GW policy, right? So we've got Dorinda and we've got Jennifer Resnick on the line for Office of Ethics, Compliance, and Privacy. This is research, but what, as far as your disclosure form, is this, and the policy that you're working on, is this something that is we're going to want our researchers to disclose?
So it's Dorinda, and I'll pass it on. I know Ashley Verably, the director of ethics compliance, is on as well. So the policy is not specific in the sense that it speaks to publications. We are in the process of going through a revision in the policy to make it more clear and transparent as to what we're looking for and why in that annual disclosure. But I think, a good rule of thumb is to disclose more than less. So in your annual disclosure, a disclosure doesn't equal a conflict. So that's important to know. And it's, probably more protecting yourself. And certainly then the risk to the institution is a full disclosure. And then it can be analyzed as if it's a conflict or not. And generally, there wouldn't be a conflict, but it's better to disclose and have that analysis occur than to not disclose and have it be found to be a conflict later. Ashley, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
I think that was fantastic, Dorinda. I couldn't have said it better. We do have, we've added to our questionnaire since even last year, a question specifically about remuneration, gift, in-kind support from a foreign institution of higher education, foreign academic teaching hospital, and so forth. And so we've added those questions in the last year, like I've said, and they're trying to, again, get at that full disclosure to allow the analysis to happen from the university rather than having the researcher or faculty member try to make that determination on their own.
So with interest of time, I'm going to move it on to Juan, but Murray, I don't think we've really answered your question. I will say that Monique is absolutely correct. It depends. We're not reviewing it for conflict of interest purposes, although, you know, our conflict of interest disclosures are getting into the undue foreign influence realm, but we're not reviewing for conflicts. It's whether this needs to be reported to the feds because there is some sort of integrity issue, right? So I can't sit here and say with every collaboration that you have, which is, I mean, come on, our researchers have number of collaborations, right? That we expect and that the research enterprise and federal partners expect for you to put down every collaboration and disclose every individual that you are collaborating with, right? I think initially that may have been the thought, but as we get a little bit more information and really understanding what the issue is, it's they don't want to overlap in federal funding, US federal funding, and we want to make sure that IP and publications and any of those are not diverted, right? So it's a little difficult, challenging because we're using the conflict of interest as a mechanism to get that information, but we're not reviewing for conflicts of interest. So I'm going to do more research, talk with our colleagues from other universities and see what they're doing, because I don't think that they're going to that extent, Murray. But whatever we find, I'll be sure to contact you specific directly, and then put that into our future trainings, right? So because it is a good question. Okay.
Okay,
And thank you for all your.